All the secrecy, all the carefully staged moments, gone. Candace Owens just questioned Meghan Markle's entire pregnancy story, and suddenly the Duchess is under fire like never before. In a move no one saw coming, not the palace, not the press, and certainly not Meghan Markle herself, what started as quiet whispers in hidden royal circles has now erupted into a full-blown media storm. Meghan's pregnancy narrative, once treated as sacred and untouchable, is now being dissected in the harsh, unforgiving light of public scrutiny. The Duchess, who built her entire public image around strength, motherhood, and resilience, suddenly finds herself at the center of one of the most controversial debates in modern royal history. It only took one clip, one unfiltered and unapologetic Candace Owens monologue, to send shockwaves through both Hollywood and the world of royal watchers. Before we dive into the explosive details and the evidence that has everyone talking, it would mean the world to us here at the Ruby Report if you would hit that like button and subscribe. Because the story you're about to hear is going to challenge everything you thought you knew. Candace, who has never been known for her subtlety, sat before the camera, looked straight into the lens, and asked the question that no mainstream journalist had ever dared to utter. Did Meghan Markle even give birth the way she claims? Her tone was confident, almost surgical, as she dissected details from Harry's own memoir, public interviews, and old press releases. She pointed out how the timelines didn't seem to align, how Meghan's supposed hospital stay seemed impossibly brief, and how the story of receiving two epidurals raised more medical questions than it did sympathy. To Candace, this wasn't just a royal tale gone wrong, it was a scripted illusion. The clip went viral within hours. Hashtags like hashtag surrogate scandal and hashtag where was Meghan exploded. The term surrogate theory began trending across social media platforms. Supporters called Candace brave for speaking out against what they described as Hollywood-level spin, while critics slammed her as heartless and cruel for questioning a mother's personal experience. But in the world of media, controversy is oxygen, and this story was burning hot. Suddenly, Harry's best-selling memoir wasn't just a book. It was being treated as a piece of evidence. Every quote, every emotional detail he shared about Archie's birth became fresh fuel for a new wave of theories. And while Candace faced intense backlash, she didn't back down. Instead, she doubled down, teasing her audience that more receipts were coming. Behind the scenes, even established royal correspondents, the same ones who were once silenced by the palace's strict media embargoes, started whispering amongst themselves. She's not wrong, one reportedly told a UK tabloid. There were details that didn't make sense, even back then. By the end of the week, what began as a short commentary clip had spiraled into a full-blown royal crisis. Meghan's defenders called the accusations misogynistic. Her critics called it accountability. But the world had already made up its mind on one thing. The Duchess's story was back under the microscope, and this time, the glare was unforgiving. Out of all the inconsistencies that Candace Owens exposed, one stood out like a flashing red light: Harry's claim in his memoir that Meghan received two epidurals during labor. To the average reader, it might sound dramatic, maybe even heroic, a testament to a difficult birth. But to medical professionals around the world, it was downright baffling. An epidural isn't a pill you can take twice or an injection that can simply be repeated for effect. It is a complex spinal procedure that involves a catheter being carefully placed near the spine to deliver continuous pain relief. Once that catheter is inserted, it's monitored meticulously, and only in extremely rare, medically justified cases would it ever be removed and replaced during an active labor. Harry's casual recounting of two separate epidurals sounded to doctors like a fairy tale gone medically rogue. Obstetric experts online immediately began calling it out. That doesn't happen, one anesthesiologist wrote in a viral thread. You would have to remove the existing catheter entirely, reprep the spine, and start the entire invasive procedure all over again, which is not something you do mid-labor unless there's a major, life-threatening complication. So why did Harry include it? Was it a simple misunderstanding of a medical term? Was it an attempt to dramatize the moment for his book? Or was it a fictional detail, inserted into the narrative to make Meghan's story sound more intense, more cinematic, and more worthy of a royal biography? For those who already doubted the authenticity of the pregnancy narrative, the two-epidural claim became symbolic. It was proof that something in the story just didn't add up. And when Candace Owens repeated this point on her podcast, her words cut deep. If the medical story doesn't check out, she asked, what else doesn't? The Sussex team remained completely silent, which only fueled more speculation. Meanwhile, social media sleuths began compiling medical timelines, hospital procedure guides, and even comparative medical records from other births at the Portland Hospital's maternity wing. It was obsessive, it was invasive, and it was going viral. What was meant to be a touching recollection of a royal birth had turned into a global autopsy of credibility. Then came the detail that truly broke the internet, the claim that Meghan left the hospital just hours after giving birth. According to Harry's memoir, Meghan gave birth to Archie early in the morning and was back at Frogmore Cottage before lunch, smiling, glowing, and resting comfortably at home. But to anyone familiar with childbirth, this story made absolutely no sense. Even under the smoothest and most ideal conditions, new mothers are typically observed for at least 24 to 48 hours, especially after epidural use or if there have been any concerns about preeclampsia, which Meghan herself had mentioned. The notion that she was discharged within a matter of hours and then chauffeured home defied almost every known medical protocol. Doctors were baffled. That's not just improbable, it's medically unsafe. One obstetrician commented in The Telegraph. The claim painted a fairy tale version of childbirth that completely ignored medical reality. Critics argued that this wasn't just storytelling, it was manipulation. The Duchess's narrative, they said, wasn't written for accuracy, but for admiration. She wanted to be seen as the picture-perfect mother who defied both royal expectations and feminine frailty. But instead, she ended up raising questions she couldn't control. If the medical inconsistencies weren't enough, the press chaos that followed Archie's birth sealed the scandal's staying power. For centuries, royal births have followed a sacred and predictable order. The Queen was always informed first. Official notices were posted on an easel outside Buckingham Palace, and the press received carefully timed announcements. But Meghan and Harry's birth story broke every single rule. At first, Buckingham Palace issued a statement announcing that Meghan was in labor. But then, just hours later, they revealed that she had actually already given birth. Reporters were completely blindsided, scrambling to rewrite headlines that instantly contradicted the palace's own earlier updates. Some journalists were told that Archie had been born that morning, while others were told the baby had arrived the night before. The confusion wasn't random, it felt deliberate. Meghan later claimed the mix-up was for the sake of privacy, but insiders say it was all about control. She wanted to manage the narrative from start to finish, to keep the media guessing and the public intrigued. Unfortunately for her, that strategy backfired spectacularly. Within days, discrepancies began to emerge. Why were trusted royal correspondents being misled? Why wasn't a traditional hospital photo op arranged? Why did the palace itself seem so caught off guard by its own statements? Each unanswered question only fed more conspiracy theories. Even longtime royal reporters who had been loyal to the Sussexes began to voice their frustration. "We were lied to," one admitted anonymously to a British outlet. It felt like a cover-up, not a celebration. Candace Owens amplified those voices, arguing that Meghan and Harry's obsession with privacy had morphed into a shield for deception, and her audience passionately agreed. By the end of that chaotic week, Meghan's carefully curated image of modern motherhood had turned into something else entirely, a story riddled with contradiction, secrecy, and suspicion. As the story deepened, even the Portland, the upscale private maternity clinic where Meghan supposedly gave birth, found itself caught in the royal crossfire. What was once a beacon of luxury healthcare suddenly became ground zero for one of the most talked about mysteries in modern royal history. Harry's memoir painted the Portland as a kind of five-star maternity wonderland, with dimmed lights, gourmet late-night meals, and compassionate nurses at every turn. It read like a romanticized movie scene, a royal birth fit for the Hollywood Duchess. But insiders began to push back. One anonymous staff member told a British journalist that the memoir's description didn't match hospital protocol at all. They claimed there were no secret elevators, no special menus at 2 in the morning, and certainly no private escape route for VIPs. It all sounded lovely, the insider said, but it wasn't real. Adding to the unease, no one from the hospital ever publicly confirmed Meghan's stay. In contrast, when other royals like Kate Middleton gave birth at the Lindo Wing, there were verifiable details, official photos, and even celebratory statements from the hospital staff. With Meghan, there was only silence. Candace Owens seized on this, stating bluntly on her show, "Hospitals have protocols, paperwork, and security footage. If this story is so real, why is every source hiding?" Her words echoed across the internet, igniting fresh speculation that the entire Portland story might just be a facade, a cover narrative for something else entirely. And just like that, the hospital that once symbolized royal luxury became a symbol of royal doubt. When Meghan Markle first announced she'd be keeping her birth private, much of the world applauded. It sounded refreshing, modern, and even empowering. But as time went on, that privacy began to look less like protection and more like a performance. Every photo, every quote, and every carefully timed revelation seemed calculated. Meghan wasn't just living through a private experience, she was producing one. Behind the soft focus interviews and empowering sound bites, there was always a camera angle, a stylist, or a metaphor waiting to be turned into marketable content. Royal insiders whispered that Meghan's obsession with controlling her own image had reached Hollywood levels. She wasn't just shielding her child, one said, she was choreographing the story. And Candace Owens called it out directly. "There's a difference," she said, "between protecting your peace and protecting a lie." To Meghan's critics, every move felt staged, from her photo ops to her emotional interviews. Even her rare moments of vulnerability seemed curated. But the cracks were showing. If privacy was truly the goal, why release so many contradictory statements later? Why include dramatic and questionable medical details in a memoir? Why correct stories that she herself had fed to the press? In the court of public opinion, Meghan was losing control of her own narrative. By now, the medical inconsistencies in the birth story were impossible to ignore. The two-epidural claim was already highly controversial, but that wasn't the only red flag. Meghan had publicly mentioned suffering from preeclampsia, a serious condition requiring strict monitoring and often extended hospitalization. Yet, Harry's memoir described a swift, almost cinematic discharge from the hospital mere hours after delivery. To medical experts, it just didn't add up. You don't go from preeclampsia and epidurals to resting at home on the same day, one OB/GYN stated. That's not just unlikely, it's medically irresponsible. Each contradiction felt like another domino falling. The Duchess's narrative of strength and vulnerability was now being seen through a skeptical lens, one that framed her not as an inspiring mother, but as a master manipulator of her own mythology. Ultimately, this story is about more than just gossip and speculation. It's about a cultural shift in how the public perceives truth, image, and influence. Meghan Markle's pregnancy isn't just about a royal birth anymore. It's a reflection of our modern obsession with storytelling itself. Candace Owens' commentary struck such a nerve because it challenged not just Meghan, but the entire machinery behind her, the way celebrity narratives are built, sold, and maintained. In a world where public figures can script their lives through Netflix deals and best-selling books, authenticity has become a performance in itself. The implications are massive. If Meghan, one of the most visible women on the planet, can blur the line between fact and fiction this seamlessly, then where does the line between reality and PR truly lie? The story that once symbolized independence and empowerment now serves as a warning about the power of perception and the price of performance. Candace Owens became the voice that pierced through the glamour, forcing the world to re-examine what it believed. And as the debate grows louder, one haunting question remains: did Meghan craft her truth, or did she simply sell a story the world wanted to believe? By the time the dust settled, one thing had become painfully clear. Meghan Markle's pregnancy story may never be fully believed again.